Welcome to One on One. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. We've got our favorite guest every year in January. We have our state senator come in and tell us what's going to happen in Annapolis during the next 4 months. It's Mary Beth Carozza. Welcome, Senator.
Happy New Year and happy 2023.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
It is.
Hard to believe. So you've just come through an election, back now into the Senate, your second term in the Senate. What should we look for out of Mary Beth Carozza?
Well, it's been quite a whirlwind. We had election season, and I thought it was really important that, again, I did my door-to-door, in all the jurisdictions in all three counties. And there's no substitute for that. You can just talk directly to the voters. And I find that when you're talking to them on their property, they're going to be more candid and open up to you. So I always enjoy those visits. I was very humbled, by the victory. And just really wanted to make sure that support was across the board in all three counties. And then from election season, we went into Christmas parade season. And our team ended up doing 9 Christmas parades in all three counties. And one of them was a new one for us in Whaleyville in Worcester County. So that time with my constituents in a more relaxed setting also is a nice way to thank the voters, but also to pick up their concerns right before you're going into session. And then we have the lead up to the session. And over the past month, I have met with local elected officials. I've met with our leadership of all three institutions of higher education, Warwick, Salisbury University, and UMES. Title Health and Atlantic General Hospital as major employers as well, the Chambers of Commerce. It's just a good time to meet with the members and to hear their concerns, priorities going into the session. And I'm ready. It's, we're looking forward. It's going to be a lot of change, and I can talk a little bit about that.
Well, what are people saying out there to you? What as the person who kind of conveys news to people, in a way, what are their reactions to what's going on, and what are they concerned about?
I think there's right now a watch and see, wait and see. This is a time of great transition in Annapolis. So we have a new governor coming on board with his administration. We have a whole new Maryland General Assembly. And I think that will continue to change because the new governor may select additional members from the House of Delegates and the Maryland Senate to fill out his cabinet, which then has the domino effect in the Maryland General Assembly. So I think there's a lot of anticipation. There's also been major changes to the committees, and I'm excited to report that my committee is part of that. The Senate President, working with leadership, changed the jurisdiction of my committee, which was Education, Health, and Environment, is now Education, Energy, and Environment. So the energy portfolio has been moved over from the Senate Finance Committee to the reorganized committee. We're calling it 3E at this point. In addition, there's a new chair, Senator Brian Feldman from Montgomery County. And I'm very encouraged about the new chair. He is already indicating to us that members on both sides of the aisle will have input, be full members, and already talked to him a couple times. And, this is before he even became the chairman. So that bodes very well for my district. I believe now, if you take the education issue, for example, we're in the process of implementing the Kerwin Blueprint, which means the pressure is on our local school districts, local jurisdictions to implement it. And we are trying, and I've been trying throughout the whole Kerwin process, to push for maximum flexibility and authorities at the local level. And when I had this conversation in the past with the outgoing chair, Chair Pinsky, he already had a set idea because he was the author of Kerwin. So in his mind, it was his legislation. He already had an idea of how he wanted to move forward, and it was difficult for him to put on his chair hat and hear from the other members. In this case, we have a new chair, Senator Feldman, and he's been very candid that education has not been his background or focus, and wants to hear from the members who have been working on it for many years, that, where we're coming from. And also, he seems to already recognize that it's going to have a different impact in different parts of the state. And, that's what we need. We need to make sure our voice is being heard. And, I see this as an opportunity with the new chair coming on board.
And also in that committee, climate change is a big discussion point. So a lot of climate change stuff's going to go through there, and energy affecting climate change.
Exactly. So here we have one of the cutting edge issues at both the national, state, and local issue, all of our energy challenges. So now that this committee will be handling this jurisdiction, again, I think it puts my constituents and the major employers in my district in a good position. Again, having a chairman that will listen, and I'll be honest, I need to focus more so now, given that it wasn't in my committee before. So I see this as an opportunity again, and looking forward to that. And that means meeting with a lot of people from my district on the front lines who are involved with energy issues, learning from my colleagues who have served on that committee in the past. So again, a lot of opportunity, but great transition. And I'm thinking that the impact may be with such a major transition on all fronts that I'd like to think that we're going to go slow, in that, some people are just now adjusting, will be coming into new roles in leadership. We have several new members in the Maryland Senate and the House of Delegates. We have this new administration coming on board. And I did want to share with you that the Senate President appointed me to the Senate Executive Nominations Committee. And there are only a small number of senators that serve on that committee, and I'm thrilled about this appointment. It will allow me, as these nominees come before our committee to ask for our vote for their confirmation, it will give me the opportunity to raise the issues and priorities of my district, of my constituents, and make sure that there will be some responsiveness to that. And, they want my vote. I'm expecting them to be responsive. So this will allow me to establish some working relationships from the very beginning. So then when I do have a constituent issue, whether it's in the Maryland Department of Environment or Human Services, Department of Commerce, that I'll be able to reach right in, go to the top, and also, expect that cabinet secretary and that department would be responsive.
Yeah, that's great sway. It's not your style, but you always had the fallback of, when I voted for you, you told me you were going to do X, Y, Z. It builds a rapport right away.
Those hearings are very important. They do give us as members the opportunity to raise key questions in the areas that they're taking over, whatever department or agency. And then we have those responses on the record. And yes, I will hold them accountable. And the bottom line is, I represent the best Senate district in the entire state of Maryland. And if you think about this district, it has everything. It has hospitality industry with Ocean City, Assateague, and the surrounding area. We have, I call it my 3 Fs. We have fishing, farming, and forestry, major industries in this district. We have all 3 institutions of higher education. We have major employers like Tidal Health and Atlantic General Hospital, and so many small businesses, entrepreneurs who are taking a risk and employing so many people in the district. So I look at this district and I want to maximize everything. And, what a great position to be in. as these new leaders are coming into these departments to highlight what's going on in my district and where my constituents are going to need support from their agencies and departments.
On the legislative side, there's two major things in Wycomico County that are going to have to go through you. One is our new county executive, Julie Giordano, has suggested that she would perhaps like to get rid of the dispensary system in Wycomico, so it would match the rest of the state. You certainly went through that in Worcester as a delegate. And the other is to codify some kind of a sewer district commission that would allow us to proceed with the sewer plan. So first thing with the dispensary system, what would your role be in that? What legislation is needed to get rid of the dispensary system in Wycomico?
So Wycomico and Montgomery counties are the only two counties in the entire state of Maryland that are government controlled. They're dispensaries. And not only have I been through this with Worcester, as you mentioned, but last session, Somerset County also now has moved to the private sector. So, I certainly understand and support the business operators and the general public who are saying to us, the government doesn't belong in the liquor dispensary business. At the same time, I'm sensitive that there probably needs to be, some type of phase in what that may look like. We have already had a meeting that the new county executive, Julie Giordano, pulled everybody together with the Greater Salisbury Committee, and we had members of the delegation, we had the county executive, we had members of the county council, and we had some representatives from the private sector, all in the same room and starting to discuss how we would make that shift. And I have cautioned everyone because I have served on the committee that has jurisdiction over alcohol bills. There are no simple alcohol bills, bar none. So, pardon the pun, but it's just that simple. And so when someone says that they have a simple bill to either privatize the dispensary system or, what we did with the secrets bill, my first session to open it up in Maryland, each one of those bills are a very heavy lift. So right now, there has been ongoing conversations on what the best approach would be to do that. Again, trying to be fair, looking at what is working with the current system. I know there's some sensitivity about the employees that are involved. At the same time, recognizing that Wycomico and Montgomery are the last counties not to move towards privatization of the dispensary. So I am optimistic that we will continue to be able to work together. I want to manage expectations on whether that will actually happen this session, given the complexity of some of these alcohol bills. Also, given the fact that the alcohol portfolio has moved from my committee, which was in education, health and environment, and now has moved over to the finance committee. And it's also, which is where it is in the House of Delegates, it's in the House Economic Matters Committee. You'll see Delegate Chris Adams, who is on the House Economic Matters Committee, be very involved in this, representing Wycomico County. You'll see Senator Johnny Mounts, who is going to be on finance on the Senate side and who has served on that committee before and representing, again, part of Wycomico County, involved with that, given their committee jurisdiction. We're going to have really close coordination with our county executive, our council president, and our county council members. I'm much more encouraged after this election that we will have that, just given the fact that we've already met before we've gone back to session.
Right. Now, it might be an apples-oranges thing, but your predecessor, Jim Mathias, the county came to him, they wanted an elected school board, and he was suspicious about how broad the support was for that, whether it was just a political thing or if it was something that the people really wanted. So he requested a referendum, we had a referendum. Does there need to be a referendum on the liquor board, on the dispensary system? Would that make you feel better about it, or does it matter?
When I guess when I look at, what the other counties have done, and I look at where Wycomico is, it seems to me that there is a general consensus about moving to the privatization of the dispensary. I think it's more a question of how you do that. So that's where I am right now. But
And on the legislative side, it's not a fiscal question like it is in Wycomico, like where we're going to make up the revenue. But for you, it's on your side of it, legislatively, it's a government should be privatizing this thing.
right, and I just look at the rest of my district representing Worcester and Somerset counties, and where they are, and it just looks like there's Wycomico that doesn't have the same access that the business
Sure.
community has in my other two counties. Question of fairness as well.
And what about on the sanitary commission side?
So this will continue to be a top issue, and again, it's been one that we have worked through with the Tri-County Council and the leadership of John Cannon, as well as the Greater Salisbury Committee. Working has pulled in members of the private sector. This has been a major issue for realtors and developers, and we've actually been working on this for several years. We did make some progress within the past year. We found that one of the reasons there were so many delays with the permitting process is just short-staffed and across the board. And so we had that in this area as well. So we were able to work with the leadership of the Maryland Department of the Environment and have some additional staff support in that area. Moving forward, looking at the plan that's being developed, has been developed at the local level with the new county executive who is committed to focusing on making progress on this issue, a county council president that has experience on both the private sector side of it and the government side of it. Again, it will be a focus, it will be a priority. And I'm encouraged because these issues are handled in my new reconstituted committee, and I believe I have a chairman that will be more open to us bringing some possible proposals with flexibility, more flexibility at the local level. So, I'm encouraged. Again, these are tough issues, and we've been patient working through this, but we're at the point we really need to move forward. And again, now that we're come off of this election and we look at the players that are in place at both the state and the county level, I believe we can move forward. The unknown, though, is the new administration coming in and the appointees that will be made at the Maryland Department of Environment. My hope, and I know that Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford has encouraged the new administration, is you want to keep some institutional knowledge in these departments and agencies. And having gone through this when I worked for Governor Ehrlich a few years back, I can tell you that's really important to have some key people that remain in those departments and agencies for the institutional knowledge and for just good government. Many of those positions are not political at all. A new administration has to come in and, you have to go from campaigning to governing, and you have to execute, you have to implement. And although I'm a member of the Maryland General Assembly, I actually think the challenges in the executive branch are far greater than the ones we face in the legislature. We work on the policies and we do oversight, but it's the governor and his team and the departments and agencies that carry out those policies and that serve my constituents. When I have constituent issues to resolve, I'm not calling a member of the Maryland General Assembly or Department of Legislative Services. I'm calling the department or the agency and trying to reach right in and work on that specific issue, and that's in the departments and agencies. So, this is major change, and this transition is huge across the board. I'm just grateful that I'm in a position going into my second term in the Senate, on the committees that I serve, the education, energy, and environment, which is so important to my district, being on executive nominations, that I will be able to really press the priorities for my district.
And you were so unique in terms of your biography, your resume, that you have the federal government experience. You worked in the executive side of the state, and all your legislative experience. You knew everybody and you knew everything, and it really puts you in a very unique position compared to other lawmakers.
I believe I am the only current member of the Maryland General Assembly who has served in both the executive and legislative branches of government at both the state and federal level. And I say that just to acknowledge that experience I take with me in what I do day to day in my role as a senator. Um, you know, it's been really gratifying to take some of these experiences and to apply them, especially when so often I don't have the immediate answer, but I know where to go to
Well,
find that answer.
You know how it works, and you don't have to waste any time figuring out how it works.
And it's like I notice when my staff comes and says, we got this issue in this department, we don't even know where to start. And, I usually at least can identify that starting point, and usually the key person that can help us resolve the issue. And again, showing some continuity between administrations, there are some key people in state government that are serving now that I served with when I was Governor Ehrlich's deputy chief of staff. So to be able to call a deputy secretary, at the Department of Budget and Management, to be able to call somebody in state police, and to know that there's been that continuity, definitely gives my constituents, an advantage to resolving their issues.
I don't mean to oversimplify it, but the people that I talk to about state government, they're either concerned about some of the wacky ideas that come from the Western Shore that the lawmakers want to implement on us. So we need lawmakers who are going to stand up and fight. And then the other pot is people who want our lawmakers to go to Annapolis and get money for things and bring the money back. So they see that as your big job, in Annapolis. How do you format yourself for that stuff?
You do both, and you prioritize. I really know my district. I know the economic drivers, when it comes to tourism, and to make sure that we do have like the funding for tourism, and to make sure my colleagues understand that if they're supporting a project for funding, let's say the Ocean City Convention Center, that actually benefits the entire state. Then there's issues like we've talked about, the importance of agriculture and forestry and fishing. In those cases, it's more to make sure there are not policies that come down that are going to hurt their livelihood. So you get more into watching policies that might be introduced, or the interpretation of regulations, so that you might be trying to stop a bad bill or interpret a regulation that they have more leeway, at the local level. And then as far as, we've been very successful with priorities that Salisbury and Wycomico County have had when it's come to downtown revitalization in Salisbury, when it's come to the improvements we made at Purdue Stadium for the Delmarva Shorebirds. So, it really is a balancing act. And then there are some issues that, you just simply make clear that you're not going to be able to be with someone or with a certain constituency because of the negative impact it might have on another part of your constituency, trying to work through those issues. So I look at it, it very much is a balancing act. It really is not one or the other. You have to push for your priorities. Some of those are budgetary, some of those are policy related. And you have to also, there are some policies that are going to be introduced that you just know that you're a hard no and it's not going to change. Case in point was, when they were going to eliminate natural gas in the climate change bill.
Right.
And, we as a community stood firm and made clear and made the case that, here we were just bringing natural gas to Somerset County, a county that, is the only county that doesn't have natural gas in the state. And you had legislators from the Western Shore who have natural gas trying to eliminate. So that was, hands-on, all of us together pushing back on that. So that's how I work my issues. So it goes back to really knowing my district, and that's why I spend so much time moving around my 3 counties, all those meetings I do, all of the door-to-door, all of the fire department dinners, the chamber lunches, just being out in the community. So my constituents are comfortable letting me know their priorities. So it's both.
You had an amazing relationship with our current governor who's departing. You could walk in his office anytime you wanted and put your feet up on the desk and ask for stuff if you wanted to, or get his advice or advise him. I guess that's going away. How are you going to manage all that, I guess?
So I've always actually been respectful about the office of the governor to begin with. And even though I have a great relationship and with Governor Hogan, I actually just used it when I needed to use that. I just thought it was important to prioritize. I'm looking forward to establishing my relationship with the new governor. I have met him. He came into my committee early on last session on a veterans issue. And what a great issue to meet, Wes Moore when he came in with the Tuskegee Airmen, and to have that introduction talking about an issue where we have, shared goals, shared priorities. I plan to, again, using my positions, taking advantage of the opportunities that I've already been presented with. I've been already invited to a faith-based event with the new governor, that I've accepted that invitation. And I know there will be other opportunities. So just as I've always done when I was, in the executive branch and now in the legislative branch, and with the change in administration, making the effort on building those relationships. And I will always make that extra effort.
She's Mary Beth Carozza. She's our state senator. She heads to Annapolis next week.
Yes.
For another term, her 3rd term in the legislature, 2nd as senator, and we're going to wish her well and hear back from her often about how things are going. Good luck, Mary Beth. We were going to miss you up there.
Thank you, and I know you'll be coming up to visit.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. Another edition of One-on-One right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and One-on-One. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.